Sneaky Nation, in this episode of Warframe, we're going to be checking out all the new weapons introduced in Update 18.5, including the Mutalist Cernos, the dual Toxocyst, and the Lesion. Now, Inaros was also a new frame that was added in the same update. We did a video on him previously, including a look at all of his abilities and his stats, so make sure you check that out in case you missed it. And first up, we have the new bow, the Mutalist Cernos, which is of course an addition to the Cernos family that already includes the regular Cernos and the xxSnEaKyGxx from the syndicates. Now, in terms of comparisons, it is better than the regular Cernos because it trades the high critical chance that weapon has in exchange for higher base damages for everything else. But in terms of its comparison to the xxSnEaKyGxx, it is unfortunately not quite as good, so if you're going to choose a bow, I'd still go with that one if you have the option. In terms of build requirements, it's really not all that bad either. You get the blueprint right off the market, so it's easily accessible to everybody. You do unfortunately need to have a regular Cernos, but if you do have it, then it makes sense to upgrade it anyway. This is the next logical step. Now, other resources you need include plastids, nanospores, and cryotic, so as long as you're at least up to Saturn, you'll be able to build this pretty easily. As you'll notice, it does have a really cool feature. Every time you shoot an arrow, it does fire 2 projectiles at once. So number 1 is of course the arrow, and number 2 is a toxic spore. So what that does is upon impact, it will actually create a toxin cloud, dealing area of effect damage to every enemy that runs through it. You can just fire this at the ground randomly, and it will create like a kind of a trap, really. It does work kind of well in every type of mission. I mean, like survival missions, not really so much because enemies are basically everywhere. I actually found that it works pretty well in defense missions because you know where the enemies are coming from, so you can kind of set up little traps. It doesn't really deal a lot of damage, but it just adds a little bit extra to it to make it even cooler. Now, this is a fun bow to use, although I don't imagine I'm going to be dropping my Dread or my xxSnEaKyGxx in exchange for it, and I don't imagine too many veteran players are going to be bumping it up high in their priority list from their arsenal. So it's a nice little distraction, but overall, not nearly the best bow in the game. And now that brings us up to the new secondary, the dual Toxocyst. So my first impression of the weapon wasn't very good. It kind of has a slow fire rate. It does do decent damage against the Grenier, but I mean, it just didn't really seem like it was that great until I noticed what the actual benefits to it were. So there's actually rewards for getting headshots. You get certain buffs that are added to the weapon temporarily. So number 1, you get a much faster fire rate. It's so fast, as a matter of fact, it turns this from a decent weapon into a really awesome one. At least as long as you can keep that going, anyway. And it also adds less recoil. There's also a toxin damage proc added onto it as well. So as long as you're pulling off the headshots, these can be really effective weapons. And once I saw that, suddenly I liked it a lot better. It's still not one of my favorites. I'm going to go to the Vacor Murloc whenever I choose to go for my best and most favorite weapon for secondaries. But this is definitely a nice distraction though. Now, if you want to build this for yourself, you will need to be part of a clan that has the research done in the biolab for it. But after that part's out of the way, it's not really too bad to build it. I mean, you need some mutagen mass like you normally do for these. And also nanospores, plastids, and of course one former, just like you always need for every clan dojo weapon. But I think it's certainly worth it to check it out at least. And finally, that brings up to my overall favorite weapon from the update, the Lesion. So this is actually an infested polearm take on the Torpedo. Considering I really enjoyed the Torpedo, most likely I was going to enjoy this one as well, so that's not really a surprise. But it does have a nice little additional bonus on it. So if you actually successfully deal a status effect to an enemy, you will gain a temporary attack speed bonus and guaranteed toxin procs dealt to your enemies. So this thing is actually a real beast when it comes down to it. I mean, it's not really meant for Grenier, but it's still working really well against them, as you can tell here. And I mean, it's just really fast, it has great range, and basically nothing can stop it. Now, if you're anything like me, you're obviously wondering exactly how do you build this beastly weapon? And it's very simple. You just go to the market, you get the blueprint right off of there, so that's easy. Unfortunately, you do have to turn in your Torpedo to actually build it, so it makes sense to upgrade it just like it does with the Mutalist Cernos. Obviously, it's better in the end. So you use your Torpedo, you use some plastids, use, unfortunately, 4 neurodes, so that's a little bit hectic, trying to get those. Probably the most annoying resource to try to get in the game, if you ask me. And then finally some nanospores. So after you get all that, it's clearly worth building it, so definitely take full advantage of it, and thank me later. And now here's a close look at the Mutalist Cernos. As you can see, it does look like the infestation a lot. I mean, it looks like it has some juicy membranes in there. As a matter of fact, so juicy that I kind of want to touch it just to see what it feels like. And possibly play with it afterwards. But anyway, so at the max rank of 30, we can see the following base stats on it. So the slash and puncture are both at 11.3. The impact is by far the biggest base stat here at 202.5, so that means it's going to be a Corpus weapon. Best against the Corpus faction. And let's see what else. Status chance, 45%, that's pretty good. And 15% critical chance, we could potentially take advantage of that with some mods. And the charge rate, we're definitely going to take advantage of that. It's at a 1, so we can get that down really fast. Okay, so let's look at the base polarity icons already on here. So it only has this one, and naturally, most likely we're going to use the mod that actually drops down that charge rate a lot. Okay, so let's look at the particular setup I was using during that mission. So Rupture we used for increasing the impact damage, and in total we got up to 1100.4. Serration to increase the damage, Split Chamber to increase the multi-shot, Speed Trigger decreased the charge rate so that we could get it faster, and that combined with Vile Acceleration got it down to a very impressive 0.25, so it basically charges almost instantly, almost. Definitely the fastest charge rate of any bow in the game. I mean, all the Cernoses do. And the only problem with this is it does decrease the damage, but you're able to fire it so fast that it kind of makes up for it anyway. Kind of like the idea of using a heavy weapon where you have to swing it slower but you do more damage, whereas with like daggers you can swing them faster but they're doing less damage. Same basic idea. And then Point Strike I used to increase the critical chance, and we got that up to a 37.5, very respectable. Certainly not nearly the best. I mean, my Dread gets way over 100, but it's still pretty good. I mean, clearly we still have some space to work with here. We can put some more different polarity icons on here and use some formas and get this even stronger, but as it stands right now, it's a pretty good bow. Alright, now we can't go without at least attempting to put on a unique color scheme. Now, if you've been watching these videos lately, you know I like to use the random colors. It's a lot easier, and because there's so many different color combinations, I may not be able to think of everything right off the top of my head, but we're going to do something we used to do in the beginning of the series. That's actually coming in and choosing one color at a time ourselves. So let's see if we can find a good one. Now, I'm kind of liking the idea of using the ice pack for this, just to see if we can do something with it. I'm really feeling a really nice blue kind of shade here. Question is, which shade are we going with? I think it has to be darkish. Actually, that's kind of cool. Let's go with like a little bit towards black, but not quite complete black. Very dark blue. Oh, then I like the idea of putting like a light blue in there, maybe? Okay, what does this change? Oh, this changes a lot of it. Alright, let's keep going with the ice pack. The ice pack for the win! Needs to look good. Needs to look good, damn it. Actually, how does that look with a whitish color? I mean, that's alright. It's not as great as I was hoping it would be, but might have to go into different color packs, I'm thinking. Find a good one for this, too. Actually, let's make it that same dark. A nice dark shade, yeah. Alright, so that's alright. And then the energy color we'll probably put on... Let's see. Let's make it a nice darkish blue. Not as dark as the other color. Like that one. Alright, so that'll be a new look for it. I mean, it looks a lot different than it did before. It doesn't look like membranes anymore. It looks like blue snots. Ugh. Wow, those guns are huge. That's what she said. Alright, anyway, so up close, the dual Toxocyst looks pretty decent. I mean, it has an alright color scheme. We certainly have to customize it for our own liking in a moment, though. But before we do that, we're going to look at the base stats. So upon reaching the max rank of 30, it's going to have these stats. Slash and Impact are both at 7. That means they're not really factors on it. Puncture's at 56, so clearly it's meant to be used against the Grenadier faction primarily. And 35% status chance is pretty decent. Reload is 2.3, that's very slow, way too slow for my liking, so we're probably going to mod to try to downplay that a little bit more. Magazine's at 12, that's pretty decent. And critical chance 5%. Not even going to waste a mod on that, such a waste of time. Get out of here with that business. Alright, so let's look at the polarity icons already on there by default. So it has a V-shape, that'll go nicely with Hornet Strike, the base damage mod, and then this one will most likely be the Puncture mod. And here I am, of course, using Hornet Strike for the base damage. It still has to rank up 3 more times before it's really up to its full potential, and it would already be there, but it just takes so many gold fusion cores and so many credits, and this is my secondary account, so I'm not really focusing too much on it at the current time, sadly. And then Lethal Torrent increases the fire rate and multi-shot. Now, I do not have the base multi-shot mod for secondary, so that's why I kind of use this one in its place. If I did have that one on this account, then I'd be using both of them together, because multi-shot does make a huge difference. That's why you can't necessarily take this video by itself to really get a good idea of how good these could potentially be in the future, because they could still be greatly improved upon what they are right now, but it gives a pretty decent idea, I would say. And then Gunslinger increases the fire rate even further. This one goes up to 60%. This one can still go higher, but it's at 48 right now. It still has 2 more levels to go up. And then we're using some elemental mods too, Pistol Pestilence to increase the toxin damage and status chance. That combined with Frostbite with cold damage and status chance, and Ice Storm with another additional cold damage gets the viral up to 465.9, which, in case you don't know, that's for actually attacking the health directly. So for example, with the Grineer faction, if you get through their armor, you get down to their health. So naturally, where this is a puncture weapon, you're going through their armor and you're attacking their health, so kind of works together in that fashion. And then if you get like through the Corpus's shields, you get down to their health, and then the Infestation, you just automatically get right to their health because you're attacking their flesh. And no returns, increasing the puncture damage. I mean, it's only 60%, and there might be a better mod to put here, but that's just what I'm using for now. And then I am using Quick Draw to increase the reload speed. Unfortunately, it's only been ranked up once, and this doesn't really take too much to get up to the max rank, so we're going to definitely use some other mods on that in a little bit. But this is a pretty decent mod setup for now. I mean, there could potentially be other ones that work better, but this is what I'm using. And now to personalize these, so we have to go in and change it one at a time again. I do want to use the randomizer, but let's see if we can come up with our own color scheme again. Oh, I kind of like the way that looks with the orange there. Yeah, that's pretty slick. I'm probably not going to keep the white though, so it might not work as well. We'll see. Okay, so secondary, what does this change? Oh, it changes the dots on the side. So let's make those... Let's see how yellow works. Let's just use the fire color pack this time. We used the ice one last time, now we must use the fire. Let's see. Alright, that doesn't look bad. What does this change? Okay, this changes most of the gun, okay. This will make a huge difference. Oh man, that looks pretty slick, look at that. Yeah, I kind of like that. Can we change the purple though? Okay, good. I was going to say, it didn't look as good with the purple there. There must be a good color scheme we could use for that. Actually, that doesn't look too shabby. I mean, they're not really like vibrant or anything. They just kind of blend in, but these still look pretty cool. I kind of like that. And then for energy, let's just make that a nice fire orange too. Alright, so those look pretty slick. They'll be going to penetrate some Grineer very soon. And now for a close look at the Lesion. As you can see, it has the same color scheme as the other weapons did, and it has the purple, the white, the yellowish. You get the drift by now. And then, oh my goodness, it has the juicy membranes mustache. Alright, but anyways, before we go and change the color scheme on this, we're going to take a look at the base stats again. So this is at the max rank of 30 currently. It has a 75 slash damage and 5 puncture, then 20 impact. So it's going to be weakest against the Grineer faction, clearly. And then, let's see what else it has. 30% status chance, not terrible. And 5% critical chance, not even going to mod it for that either. These really aren't critical chance weapons, are they? Not at all. Alright, so let's go look at the polarity icons already on there. Now, in the stance mod slot, I'm most likely going to use Shimmering Blight, considering it's the only one I have. Probably the only one available for it. So that's good to know. And then it also has a V-shape down here, which goes perfectly with Pressure Point, which is the base melee damage mod. So let's see the actual mod setup I was using in this video. So Shimmering Blight up here, Pressure Point, melee damage, and then Fury increases the attack speed. Now it's only at 1.10 because I'm using that in addition to Spoiled Strike, which increases the damage a lot, 100%, but it decreases the attack speed 20%. Now this makes sense in certain cases, obviously not if you want to be really fast with your melee weapon, but if you're more about damage, then clearly this is the melee mod for you. I mean, certain weapons I wouldn't use it on, like if it's something like the Dual Ichor that's really fast, I'm not going to use it on there. Maybe the War, but that's kind of slow by default, so I don't know if I want to slow that down even more. Although most likely I'll still use it anyway, because damage rules all. And then Rendering Strike increases the slash damage and puncture damage, primarily puncture, slash to a lesser extent. Then Fever Strike is increasing the toxin damage, and I have Northwind on there for cold damage. We got the Viral up to 624. I also have Virulent Scourge on here. It's not even ranked up yet because I do need, again, some more fusion cores to actually rank some of this stuff up. And then I was also using Prime Breach on there. Completely unranked, but still, it's on there. Prime mods for the win, right? Anyway, Sneaky Nation, that'll about do for this video. I hope you enjoyed. As always, be sure to click like and favorite to let me know if you did. If you're new, join us in Sneaky Nation by clicking subscribe for more videos like this and from other games in the future. Also follow me on Twitch for all my live streams. The link is in the description. And there's also a link in the description for our free to join Discord community. That's where we go and chat all the time, so be sure to head on over there if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.